This whole project is something that is really, really fun. But these artists were basically assigned to filmmakers, and we were assigned to each other. And it's this classic blind date, cold call type situation where it's like, hi, I'm about to put a camera in your face. It's so unnatural to be on camera. I mean, I feel unnatural being on camera, so I have a lot of sympathy. The way I like to film is like, let's just talk and make it conversational and no pressure, and I don't like to feed lines and things like that. In the process of making a film with the subject, you find it together, and it's a process, and you have to have patience. But that's what makes it fun.
So I think every instance with any person that you've met has a purpose, whether it's going to be personal or professional purpose. The way that you may have conducted an interview may be the way that you learn how to do it with somebody else.
You're having a shared personal experience.
Yes.
I knew I had one weekend at Hambidge and that I would be spending it with a total stranger named Anthony. I knew he was a ceramicist. My approach was kind of just treat it like I'm hanging out with a new person, where I'd ask them a bunch of questions, get to know them, letting the camera roll. He takes so long with his process of setting up specific things, so I'm not going to disturb him and rush things. It's not in a way I've captured things before, but just treating it as an experiment. And I feel like that's a rare thing to document within the artistic process, is the moment where an artist really puts it all together and eventually steps away from it as well.
When I was told that I was going to be partnered with a dancer, I was incredibly excited, right? Because there's going to be movement. That there's going to be feeling. That there's going to be like a certain type of expression that words won't do justice to. She told me about her project, and she explained that it was really a project based around a woman finding herself again. I've been that woman before. So it was very easy to identify with her, to put myself in that position, to offer her empathy. And so I utilized my camera as that empathetic tool. And so hopefully by marrying those two, her movements and her intentions with my camera and my intentions, we've created something that is beautiful and tender.
But when you think about being at Hambidge, there's a purpose for being there. And that is for you to be your artistic self without disruption. And so that is the main goal for me as well, for me to create my art with you while you are also using this valuable time while you're away from family, away from friends, away from your norm. So how can we incorporate our time together while also not disrupting each other?
As I've been doing this long enough, I realize that I feel like the best end product comes from doing less research in the beginning. There's a base level of preparation that you need just to show the subject the respect that you take them seriously as an artist. So you've seen their work, but as far as what the film is, in my experience, it has to be created in the room. If I am coming into an interview already knowing what the film is, it always ends up a worse product because you feel like you're forcing something. When we go on walks, she'll take scissors with her on the walks and cut flowers and cut interesting weeds, plants, grass to bring back and draw those and then cut those. So it's like she's gleaning things from her own art and making it into something else that goes on a wall. And it's very cool to see.
I like that. I like the fact that it's reaping and gleaning, because it sounds like you're really collecting from your natural environment rather than just like cutting. We think of it as an edit. That sounds very mechanical, when you say you're cutting something.
Yeah, so it's like she's harvesting ideas from nature. You're harvesting right now. I was harvesting story. And then in the edit, you harvest from what you took. So it's kind of the same thing as cutting grass and then drawing grass and cutting it again.
Thinking about a woman finding her voice, we didn't have any audio. We didn't have any audio. You would think that because a woman is trying to find her voice that maybe she would say something. There is a scene where she screams, and even in that scene where she screams, when we were filming it, I was like, okay, Shakara, I was like, I want you to just let out a scream. I'll do it with you. And we screamed, and it felt good for both of us.
From what I gathered, his plan was always just to make as many of these sculptures as he could and leave them off of this one trail in Hambidge. And that was a totally new way to look at art for me. I feel like I'm so precious about the final product and being able to hold on to it and share it with people through film, but to see an artist like him that can just walk away from it and go back to a totally different town and maybe never see this thing again, but know that it will reach people in its own way and reach the people it's supposed to reach on the trail, I thought was really beautiful and inspiring. We rode around in this mule vehicle together, and he just kind of locked eyes with one spot, and I got to watch him decide that all the stuff he had spent 2 weeks making to bring it to one place to say goodbye to it.
He's not gonna fall.
Anthony was so good at detaching from an idea of perfection that I was really inspired and moved by, of like, not everything has to be exactly how you want it. And especially working with clay, you can't totally predict how something's gonna come out when it leaves the kiln. I wouldn't say I learned much about how to work with clay, but I just saw an artist really put their whole self into the project of working with clay, which was inspiring for anyone to see.
I'm happy with whatever I create because it gave me the opportunity to learn about a person or subject or an event that I may have never known about. So now that I've had that time, it just makes me want to, discover something else. So yeah, you really are just having like these very micro relationships with folks.
You're put in this intense moment. You got to get to know each other.
Right.
It's almost like these little love affairs, these little friendships that you may never see them again,
right?
Or maybe you will.
Everything doesn't have to come, down to something that's tangible. I think the time that you've spent with people, it definitely has a purpose. People should have the opportunity to be themselves without having to show it all of the time. Like, if this is the version of you that you wanted to show, I have to completely respect that. And also, if you feel like you want to be your full self outside of what we are creating together, that's fine too. I think that's just like one of those best kept secrets that we'll have as far as our experience goes.
I think that's the role that we have as filmmakers. We can offer people a chance to see themselves at one point in their life, and then they look again and they'll say, look how much I've grown, right? That was my hope for Shakara. Even now, like, knowing that when I sent her the edit, she was like, I'm crying because you don't know what I've been through, but how did you know? I see it right here. That's what makes me feel so good about the partnership, bringing it to fruition, bringing it to light.
You have to go in with no expectations and with an open, curious, listening mind, and the best things come out of that.